Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing Green-Black Turbodepths because, of course we are. I love this deck. What is this deck for those who don't know? We make a 20/20, turn it sideways, our opponent dies. We either use Vampire Hexmage to remove all the counters or Thespian stage to become a copy with no counters, and the rest of our deck is dedicated to making this happen and stopping our opponent from dealing with it. So we've got 8 shooters, crop rotation, Sylvan Scrying. We've got 8 bits of fast mana. We've got Hand Disruption, we've got Pithing Needles for things like Wasteland and Caracas, and we've got Not This World just to deflect a bit of removal when it comes our way. And there's a few silver bullets in the lands like Bojuka Bog, Boseiju we can fetch with Sylvan Scrying, and Sejiri Steppe and Ghost Quarter. That's more or less it. If you're interested in this, just search my channel. There's loads of decks, loads of videos of me playing this deck, so if you want more detail, by all means. Although the best place to find detail about this deck, of course, is my Patreon, which can be found in the description below. I update the guide to this deck every month, and there's a big update going this month because of all the Lord of the Rings card, which is why we're playing this build as well, because more Lord of the Rings stuff means we need to adjust how we're playing the game slightly. So, what are the adjustments we've made here? Well, we are fully on the 8 Duress plan. This is because Grixis Delver is the main Delver flavour right now, and that deck has access to things like Sheoldred's Edict, which we can't use Not of This World or Apostle's Blessing to defend ourselves with, so we need to pick it out of our opponent's hand. We've got 4 Pithing Needles because Wastelands, there's quite a lot of those around. Grixis Delver, like I mentioned just now, but Death and Taxes with Blood Moon is making a bit of a resurgence. I think it's Magus rather than actual Blood Moon, but that's making a bit of a resurgence at the moment, so I really wanted to have something to deal with that, with the Wastelands coming from that. And obviously Lands is always around, and there's plenty of decks with Wastelands is what I'm saying. And Pithing Needle can also name the One Ring, although the bit of the One Ring that's scariest to us is the prevent damage clause, or the protection for a turn clause. That is the thing that really knackers us, to be honest. But, because we don't really care about them drawing a few cards, because we don't necessarily want the game to go that long anyway, that they can leverage those cards. But the extra turn they get them is often enough to really ruin us. Anyway, so this version is kind of slightly adjusting so it can deal with that. We've cut up a Boseiju because one of the main artifacts we want to hit at the moment, we can't hit with Boseiju, and I played a build with only one Boseiju the other day and it worked out quite nicely, so I'm going to try it again and see if that works out in terms of how that number feels. Sideboard wise, we've got things that you would expect here, so we've got our 4 Abrupt Decays split between 2 arts unfortunately, but there's 4 Abrupt Decays here to blow up the key permanents, Opposition Agent, Blood Moon, Mages of the Moon. These are things that have to go. Ensnaring Bridge is another one, so these things need to leave play for us to win the game, so that's what they're there for. 4 Leyline of the Void, plenty of graveyard decks around at the moment. And we got 4 Null Rod effects. This is probably the most Null Rod effects we've played for a while. That's because, again, the One Ring is everywhere. But also, Painter and 8cast are 2 of the top 5 decks right now. Which means these are going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting for us. Last card we have is Apostle's Blessing. I tried this the other day and it was interesting. I'm not convinced on it, but I want to test it some more and that's why it's here instead of Steely Resolve. What this can do is get us through blockers, which is something that Steely Resolve can't do. So this allows us to sail through whatever scary blockers there might be, even if they're artifact ones like Thoughtseize. So they can't just spam a load of flyers and hope that that's good enough. Although there are less flyers in the format now that block our thing, but that's due to a change of how Orcish Bowmaster is impacting the meta right now. If you want to know more about that, you can sign up to my Patreon. I talk about that quite extensively in the update for the Green-Black Depths primer that I'm working on at the moment. I was writing some of that today about how the meta's changing and how we need to adapt to it and stuff. So we're testing a few things out here. Whether or not we see lots of the One Ring today remains to be seen because obviously card availability is a bit of a problem. I haven't even been able to get them myself to record for you. But anyway, I've sped through this deck tech as quickly as I can because I do a lot of these decks, so I don't want to make you keep hearing the same thing. So yeah, check out the Patreon, like, comment, subscribe, check out the Discord and say hello, and let's play some Legacy. Alrighty, we are on the play for round 1. Our hand is pretty good. We can make a turn to 2020 with crop rotation backup. I think we'll keep this. I think we're inclined to drop the forest first and not let our opponent know what's going on. Then we can turn this into an Urborg when the time comes. So we go forest and Lotus Petal and then pass. We could have played out the Yavimaya, but that might help our opponent. And what the Yavimaya might also do is incentivize a wasteland for my opponent. Am I supposed to crop rotate now or not? That's genuinely an interesting question. I think we wait to see if they cast anything here. We're not really caring about days here. Dragon's Race Channeler, sure. thing we're caring about here is the... I'm just trying to work out... sorry, the thing we're caring about here is a force will. I'm just trying to work out if we're supposed to go to our turn. I think we do crop rotate here. If it just gets hit, we still got green mana. Alright, so we're in. We can pay around a daze. Alright. Our opponent has ways of messing with us here in terms of wasteland, so we're just going to do this now when they can't wasteland us. And we'll pass the turn, holding up crop rotation for Sejiri Steppe if they find a way of answering it. Alright, got a nice win on the board. I'm going to assume our opponent is Grixis Delver because Grixis Delver is just better right now. Although it's an interesting fetch to have, unless they've just got the full island mana base and it doesn't matter. So maybe we're looking at blue-red still. There's still people jamming blue-red because they don't necessarily have Bowmasters or whatever. So it does mean we're in a little bit of a decision about what we want to do here. I don't like boarding out crop rotations even against blue decks because you really need to be able to do something to go and get your pieces, otherwise you just don't do anything. I think we're looking at very little sideboarding here. We can shape up some Not of This Worlds into something else and just rely on these to punch the hole and have the crop rotations. I think that's probably okay. And we can slow our opponent down in a fashion of our choice. So we can go into Leyline to slow down so the Murktires can't hit play and so the Dragon Glaive channelers don't get bigger. Or we can play as Abrupt Decay so we can actually kill like a blocker, or we can kill like an early bit of pressure for our opponent. That's kind of where we're at here. I think we'll go in for these 3 Abrupt Decays right now because the meta's in a little bit of a slightly jumbled fashion at the moment as it's sort of adjusting to new bits and pieces, people still getting the cards. I think sideboarding is a little bit up in the air. Our opponent could be Grixis. If they're just blue-red, then Leyline is better against them, but if they are Grixis, the Abrupt Decay is going to be better. Okay, so we have the Dark Depths, we have the Thespian stage, we have Thoughtseize. So we can keep this. If they don't have Wasteland, then we're okay. If they do have Wasteland, that's annoying, but we can live with it. Okay, Tundra. Okay, so we're on like a Jeskai flavour of Delver. That was unexpected. They're probably running that 4th Lingus or whatever it's called. The red-white thing that gives you the Monarch. Right, a Delver. I don't really like casting Thoughtseizers into people who've got a Delver on board, but are we supposed to Thoughtseize first or Pithing Needle first? I think it is the Thoughtseize here, because if our opponent's got like a really strong follow-up, we can at least deal with that. Daze, Force of Will, Lightning Bolt. So we don't care about any of these apart from the Murktide, I guess. That's the one thing that can get us here. So I guess we'll take the Murktide here. So we've got the uncounterable 2020. Now we do have to avoid our opponent making a Wasteland and hitting us. Now they're a Lightning Bolt Daze decks, so it's certainly not out of the realms of possibility they have a Wasteland. Alright, so there's a Delver. So we'll play this Thespian stage. We can make... well, we can't even make sure... I guess we can. We can Thoughtseize into take their Daze. I think we're just going to cast this Pithing Needle here. Put on Wasteland just to make sure we're covered. I don't necessarily want to pay the 2 life here if I can avoid it. Force of Will, pitching Daze. Alright, so they have a Lightning Bolt in hand that they can cast in response to our Thoughtseize. So we have to choose if we want to make them use their fetch now rather than guarantee one of their Delvers flipping. I think... is it worth taking 2 life to try and basically give them Scry 1 or not? What are we caring about here? What loses us this game? So if they put us... if they shoot us a 3, we go to 14. And then they're looking for Wasteland, I guess. Or Brazen Borrower. No, I don't think we pay the life. Which is a little bit awkward, potentially. Because it means they get 1 additional Scry this turn. Because they can see with the first Delver, then flip. But they're in an interesting spot of, do they draw the card they have on top? If it's an instant or sorcery, or do they look for a Wasteland? If it's a Brainstorm, then obviously... or a Ponder, then they're absolutely laughing, I guess. But here we are. So if we'd have cast the Thoughtseize first, we could have hit the Daze and then played the Needle. That might come back to bite us a little bit. I don't mind them spending 2 cards on it necessarily. The opponent doesn't know the top cards of their library yet anyway, so let's see what the Delver does. A Brainstorm. Okay, so the worst case scenario was found. So the problem with doing the Thoughtseize then is it reduces our clock, because that puts us to 15, which is a multiple of 3. So that's not where we want to be there. That's why we didn't Thoughtseize then. And I'm okay with that. If I don't find the Wasteland here, then we're probably okay. We could get hit by a Borrower still, which would be a bit miserable. Alright, that's not a Wasteland. It's another Delver though. That's not nothing. It's got no cards in hand. A Pithing Needle. we don't really have a time to mess about with that. And let's see how our opponent shuffles this. I don't think they're going to shuffle this wasteland, this lightning bolt around, actually. I think we just make it now, just so we don't have to worry about wasteland. Because they can choose to shuffle the lightning bolt away. I think they're just going to keep the lightning bolt and point it at our face and try and race us that way. But we have this Abrupt Decay that we can jam next turn. So if they leave one back to block, we can kill it. And if they only attack with one, that's not going to get them anywhere. They attack with two, we kill one and kill one. If they attack with all three, we kill one and kill them. So 3, 6, 9. So I think we are... Okay, so they shuffled the lightning bolt away. They've done the maths that we've done there. Oof. That was a pretty good draw. And now we're back to basically no resources here. I guess we have to get rid of one of these to buy ourselves some time. Yeah, so this is what I mean about being able to kill the blockers, but it's also a good way of relieving pressure, which is why I like the decays. Alright, so this is probably going to put the brainstorm back on top. Oh, they're going for the plow. Right. Okay, so we want this. We'll play out a Pithing Needle in Wasteland. We don't have a lot of turns left in this game. Cracking this does cost us a turn of draws potentially, right? No, if we crack this, we die on the next turn if they have if they draw a lightning bolt. Otherwise, it's the same. We need 2 draws to get us in this game. I'm not sure we can win this one. The Dark Depths. That's half of the problem. So I guess we jam this one out, and then we're looking to. Yeah, I'm not really sure what we're looking to do here because we're going to get killed by these Delvers either way, right? Even if we find the answer. But our opponent can show us more cards in their deck. I'm certainly interested in seeing that. Okay, just a Murktide. That's not a surprise. Right. We are deterministically dead, regardless of what we drew. Okay, so now we've seen the Swords to Plowshares, we actually want these these Not of This Worlds back in over the decays. So we were fine with how we sideboarded originally, I think, with how our deck was in its original configuration. We still haven't seen the Wastelands. We have to assume they're there because that's one of the best things Delver does. Okay, well, this doesn't have access to Dark Depths, so let's mulligan. This does have access to Dark Depths. Keep this. One of these has got to go. Interesting choice. I think it's probably just one of the Sylvan Scryings here. So we can lead out on a Verdant Catacombs that they cannot interact with via Wastelands. There's a Volcanic Island. There's a Dragon's Rage Channeler. A Duress. Okay, so we can... If we crack this for a Bayou... Our opponents shouldn't be wastelanding our Bayous here. Let's put our Thespian stage first. So we're going slightly slower. Meltdown. Okay, that's not very good here. We do have a Wasteland though. So we're trying to bait the Wasteland out here. And playing around Days. So we could have played out the Dark Depths there, but without seeing our opponent's hand, I think it's worth playing the Thespian stage first. Also, this gives us the access to... Alright, there's the Wasteland. This gives us access to playing around Days. Oh, they are taking out the Bayou. Interesting. Okay. Take a hit there. We'll cast this. Sylvan Scrying. Go and get ourselves an Urborg. Scoring time from our opponent. They probably should have mulliganed their hand. I don't think Wasteland Meltdown is really what you want to be here. Crop Rotation is interesting to me. Then we just play out this. We could play out a Hexmage now. That's an interesting choice. We can always crop rotate if we get a good spot to do so. Right, there's a Dragon's Rage Channeler. There's a Flooded Strand. So 2 of our opponent's cards are a mystery. Go to tax. We do this in our opponent's upkeep. Let's add a black mana first, just in case we need to pay around some sort of permission. Okay, so we've got crop rotation here. These guys either have to... They can try and flip them in the second main phase, so that they can actually block. Cracking a Scalding Tarn here. We've got Plow. Cracking another Scalding Tarn. Sorry, a Flood Strand. 2 white sources. Could be problematic for us. And a Scalding Tarn. Alright, so they're doing this now so they can try and flip these into creatures that can block. Okay, so they're forced of negationing their own thing in order to try and get Delirium. Okay, so they've got Delirium here. They've got 2 cards in hand. Sylvan Scrying, you say. This is interesting, because if we try and cast this and it doesn't work, then we lose access to our crop rotation. Our opponent is shields down right now, though. Right, we cast this Sylvan Scrying. If it resolves, we go and get the Sejiri Steppe. If it doesn't resolve, we go and get the Dark Depths. Alright. So it didn't resolve. Interesting. Sorry, yeah, if it resolves, if it doesn't resolve, we don't get Dark Depths. That's not how the game works. Okay, so we are kind of at the mercy of what our opponent's doing slightly. They put a card on top of their library, which I'm not a big fan of, but we do have the crop rotation here that we can go and get the Dark Depths with, which is what when I was talking about the Sylvan Scrying. If we can go and get the Sejiri Steppe and just win right there, but if that doesn't work, then we can go and get the crop rotation for the Dark Depths if this isn't going to be enough. Okay, so this has to attack. I have to assume the card on top of the library is either a cantrip or a plow. All right, so they have a plow. That's fine. We get loads of life. Tap this for black. Tap this for green. Crop rotate this Urborg away because we've got another one. Our opponent doesn't have any cards in hand, so we can just go and get this Dark Depths for black. Oh, we can't do that yet. We need to play this Urborg first. Tap this for black. Play this guy. And let's dodge a Wasteland. So we're in the same position we were in before. And we can still turn this into a Dark Depths. Alright. Okay, so they've got Swords to Plowshares here. So we're going to gain a bunch of life, but then we get to make our guy on the following turn anyway. We're just playing around Wasteland as best we can here. What are they putting on top? They left a card on top. Interesting. They also have to get through a massive amount of our life here. So maybe we could have slowed down a little bit then. Bojuka Bog. Don't mind if I do. Say no to the things that you have. So our opponent kept that one card in their hand, on top of their library, so I don't think we want to crop rotate straight away. We got so much life to work with. Okay, that's exactly why we're doing this. Let's duress our opponent. Prismatic Ending, sure. Now that we know they're playing Prismatic Ending, I think we crop rotate our opponent's end step. So that was the card they kept on top. Sacrifice this Bojuka Bog. Go and get a Dark Depths. Let's target Dark Depths. Alright, we got there. It took us 3 bouts of 2020, but we got there. I think we could have probably done that a little bit cleaner. We didn't have to go quite so hard when we did because of our life total. Maybe we're supposed to just hold back the first crop rotation. But because we already had the rest of the combos sewn up, it felt like getting the game over and done with before our opponent gets to dig with their Dragon's Rage channelers and stuff like that was better. Because every turn that they have these in play, they're more likely to find the next answer. Alright, 1-0, let's keep it going. Right, we're on the play. Our opening hand doesn't have access to a Dark Depths, so we're going to mulligan. This does have access. We got reasonable levels of protection here. I think we'll keep this. One of these has got to go back. I think it's the... This is tough because this gives us black mana. So I think it's probably the Spirit Guide. I do like the surprise mana from a Spirit Guide. So the other option we have here is we can go turn 1, stage, turn 2, play a land, crop rotate that land, use our fast mana to make a 20/20. But I like that this is helpful. Maybe we'll get rid of the Yavimaya though. And we'll lead out on this. Our opponent's going to think we're something like Cloud Posted by doing this. I think we are not going to play out any of our fast mana because we have the Spirit Guide. Den of the Bugbear. Simian Spirit Guide. Fable of the Mirror Break. Okay. So our opponent isn't really going to interact with what we're doing here. So we're just going to play the Thespian stage out. Play this Lotus Petal out. Pass the turn. This becomes Dark Depths. We have 2 mana to make it into 20/20. We kill our opponent on our next turn. Den of the Bugbear. So they could play a Blood Moon this turn, but we beat that. So we want our opponent to tap out. Do it. Do it. Yes. Excellent. Let's crop rotate this forest away for a Dark Depths. This will target this. We'll pitch this. Play this. Keep this one. Nice Blood Moon. Excellent. Alright, so we're against what looks like a mono-red prison deck with Chalice, with Trinisphere. I believe today Phil released a, that's Thraben you, released a video with a Trinisphere build that had the 1 ring in as well. Okay, so these Abrupt Decays, very good. These Not of This World, not very good. The Pithing Needles have diminishing returns. The rest of the question is, how much of this stuff do we want? What are we doing with Pithing Needle? We can name the 1 ring if we want to. We can try and shut off some of their mana using these effects. This can also trade with a Rabble Master, but it shuts off our own Lotus Petal, which we will need to beat some of the things they've got going on. No, I think we just keep Pithing Needles. It can sometimes come up. Not a big fan of the Bojuka Bog in this matchup. Could probably cut it, but we've got less lands anyway. Because we are 1 less land than the sort of stock list I normally run, because we've cut one of the Boseijus. I'm not a big fan of cutting the Bojuka Bog, although if we cut the Bojuka Bog and give ourselves a Pithing Needle, I don't hate that. Sure. We just got the 4 Abrupt Decays coming in, really. This can destroy a Blood Moon, and it has access to Dark Depths, so we'll keep this. If they make a turn 1 Blood Moon, that's real bad for us. Is this a turn 1 Blood Moon? It's not a turn 1 Blood Moon, no. This is a big clock, though, so that's definitely something we have to worry about. So now we're in a slight bind here. We can try and make the turn 2 Dark Depths here, but we get blown out pretty hard for not fetching our basic if they have a Blood Moon. But how much... If they have a Blood Moon, are they just going to cast it on turn 1 there, right? Surely that's what you do if you have the Blood Moon. Or do they just want to get their threat down first and then cast it on the second turn because they think it doesn't make a difference? But we can turn 1 them, so surely you would... Do you want to play around Blood Moon or not? As an interesting decision. If we had a piece of discard, then I'd be totally down for this. How punished will we get? I think they would have played Blood Moon if they had it. I'm going to play out the Urborg. They're immediately going to play Blood Moon. But problem is we don't have the most amount of time to mess around with all these Rabble Masters. Okay, 4 mana. It's Chaos Adventurer. Chalice on 2. That's pretty good. That's really good. Okay. So now we need to draw a Thespian stage here. That Chalice was real good. So we can't cast this. We can't... We can play the Catacombs. So how much damage is this? 1, 2, 3... So each one of these counts as 2 damage effectively. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 2 turns. So we basically have to make MARIT LAGE on the next turn, I think. So I think we play the Dark Depths this turn. And then try and draw Thespian Stage or Crop Rotation next turn. It gives us 8 live draws to win the game. Now if they Blood Moon us here, then sure. Alright, that's another 2 damage. I think that changes the clock to the point where even if we make the MARIT LAGE, we can't win here, right? So yeah, so they have enough little guys. So we had the right line if they didn't have the Rabble Master. We don't have any Glacial Chasm type effects. We can't really get that going. I don't think our opponent has to attack, so it's not even they can make a mistake here. We're just dead. All right, understood, opponent. Yeah, that Chalice on 2 is really heads up play. Interesting. I did go a little bit more beatdowny than I was expecting, so maybe we don't need these Pithing Needles as much. Maybe we just want a couple of Collector Ouphes so they can block. Let's try this. Like, we just want to go like turn 1 Duress, turn 2 kill them. That's the plan we're going for. Quite often in these Red Prison matchups, if they lean into their Blood Moon effect a bit hard, then we just use Blood Moon as our combo piece. So we get them to have the Blood Moon in play our Dark Depths with no counters on because of Blood Moon, then blow up their Blood Moon. So basically, what you're trying to do in those situations is just make sure you have green-black mana. And then you can just Abrupt Decay away, and you're laughing. Is a turn 1 2020 good enough? I think so. Do we care about Sudden Shock? We just make our guy now. Chromox. Okay, so they've got something. They haven't conceded. They're gonna dead gon us. They are gonna dead gon us. Not ideal for us. Thespian Stage. Yeah, so our opponent had to have specifically 3 mana on turn 1 and the Gon in hand. So I'm pretty happy with making that play. If we'd have had some different mana available to us, then I would have done things differently because we could have Thoughtseize first, but we only had the 2 petals. So we're very much on an all-in, let's jam hand. Our opponent did happen to have it there, unfortunately. They got a Rabble Master. Sure. This is actually one of our best matchups, amusingly. What does this actually achieve for us if we play this? Nothing on this board right now. Sure, we just pass. So we need 3 draws before we can actually do something here. And we're not going to have that time. So I think we are dead here. Yeah, if one of these was an Urborg instead, we just go turn 1 Thoughtseize first. It's got a basic. So this is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, we're just dead there. Yeah. So sometimes with this deck you have to jam it and your opponent has to have it. And sometimes they do. And that's unfortunate. We didn't really have any other way of playing that opening hand. And you can't throw back an opening hand with a turn 1 2020 against a matchup that's generally looking to try and play Blood Moons and things against you. So, unfortunate, but I don't really have any problem with the way I played that. Let's go to round 3. Alright. Our hand is a touch slow, but we can do this under counter spells with protection, so I think we'll keep this on. Opponent's mulliganed to 6 cards so far. So we have a question about what land we're playing here. It's quite a big question. So if we play the Thespian Stage, it kind of tips our hand to what we're doing. We play the Bayou, it gets us closer to the Hexmage plan, but exposes us to Wasteland a bit early and takes us off the black completely. We can play the Forest, which is the safer play. I think we're going to jam the Bayou here. It's the higher upside. If they're wasting Wastelands on our Bayou, that's annoying, but we need another black source anyway, and a lot of our black sources are Urborgs. And we still have the combo rolled up in our hand. Ancient Tomb. Chalice for 1. Chalice for 1. Okay, that's not too problematic for us. What's the follow-up? Second. Interesting. I think this time... Wasteland is not usually in Ancient Tomb decks. So I'm going to play out our Dark Depths here. This way, if we draw a black source, we can just go next turn. And if we... Because I'd much rather do the Vampire Hexmage plan than the Thespian stage plan, because the Vampire Hexmage plan doesn't remove all of our permanents. Chaos of Chaos Adventure. Okay. So we're looking at another mono red prison deck by the looks of things. They could be more into the initiative. We'll see. Plains. Okay. So yes, they are a red-white initiative deck. Black source, not a black source. Well, that's not strictly speaking true. We can make our guy right now if we want to. So we can play Ghost Quarter, tap the Bayou, sacrifice the Ghost Quarter, target our Bayou, go and get ourselves a 2020. Sure. Yes, we'll go and get a basic swamp. The power of rainbow mana bases compels you. Are we supposed to do this now? I don't think so. We can wait. I don't think Sudden Shock is going to be in our opponent's deck. Okay, they're going down the Scry route. So this line I did with the Ghost Quarter is something that's not available in Rainbow Depths, which it doesn't come up all the time, but it's certainly somewhat relevant. Right, we just take the damage here because we don't want to make the 2020. Let's see what this exiles. Ancient Tomb. We don't want to make the 2020 because our opponent could have sorcery speed removal, like the flickery thing. Now we kind of have to deal with that anyway. They could have Prismatic Ending, which they can cast for 2 to hit our 0 drop as well, because they've shown us white mana. Or they could have a creature that exiles it. Right, can I have a 2020, please? They can't plow it because of their own Chalice. They could Solitude it, but we have that covered with Not of This World. So we'll play out this one stage. Go attacks. Can I Squiddly Diddly? I can Squiddly Diddly. Excellent. Okay, so they're probably going to go heavy into Blood Moons again, as is usually the way of these things. But this one has got ways of actually killing our guy. So these are better, whereas the Pithing Needles are a lot less useful. So we actually have a slightly better board here, I would say. Thoughtseize is not necessarily where I want to be on the play, if I'm being honest. I think I'd rather have these. So let's try this, because they both are 2 life, but this is usually you win the game. Kind of what I like. Actually, we can get rid of a Bog and keep another Thoughtseize in here. Actually, we'd rather have Thoughtseizes or Duresses. Thoughtseizes hits Solitude, doesn't it? Alright, let's use our brain a bit. Boseiju's fine. Ghost Quarter. As you can see, Ghost Quarter is pretty good there. We want our fast mana. We've trimmed down our 1-drops a little bit. Apostle's Blessing is a 1-drop that you can cast with Chalice because it's actually a 2-drop, so it's really good at dodging some of those plays. So, yep. Let's try this, see if we can use their own Blood Moons against them. That's sort of the dream here. This does not have access to MARIT LAGE. It does have access to Abrupt Decay, though, which is interesting. But I don't think we can just keep an Abrupt Decay hand unless our opponent immediately mulligans this hand. Then maybe they'll be fishing for a Blood Moon effect. But they've got so many things that aren't Blood Moon that are good against us, right? And I guess we have some of those covered with our hand here. So maybe we could keep this one. I really hate keeping hands without Dark Depths, because you just sit there and then you just never get to the Dark Depths and you lose the game. Opponent's mulliganed. Am I keeping this one? So we've got 4 Dark Depths and 8 Tutors, but 4 of those might get cut down. I think we have to mulligan here. So this does have the Sylvan Scrying. We've got the ability to cast our Boseiju off of this basic forest. We will keep this. This is getting a forest. That's kind of awkward for some of our other bits and pieces. I think we lose the Hexmage here. And just use the Abrupt Decay, hopefully, to get rid of a Blood Moon when the time comes. Right, no play from our opponent. Not of This World. So this is an awkward situation we're in, because we don't really want to cast the Thoughtseize here. We're just going to pass, so we can go and fetch a forest if we need to. Cavern of Souls, probably naming Human, I would imagine. There it is. And no play. Interesting. Okay, so we have both of our colours here. So that's pretty nice. We'll crack this for a swamp. Crack this for a forest. And we have a choice here about what we're playing. We can play out our Sylvan Scrying, to go and get the Dark Depths right now. This could be opposition agent, though. Unlikely, very unlikely, but not impossible. So we're just going to Thoughtseize our opponent. Play it safe. Chromox, Solitude, Chaos. Okay, we're going to take the Chaos Adventurer because that represents the biggest threat, and we can beat a single Solitude. City of Traitors. Vampire Hexmage. So we'll cast a Sylvan Scrying. Go and get ourselves a Dark Depths. But we will not play the Dark Depths. We will play our Thespian's stage here. Right, so playing a Plains. I'm just going to make a Solitude here. Lotus Petal as well. Okay. Interesting. So they're holding up a hard cast Solitude here. Interesting. Right, there's our Dark Depths. So we know our opponent's hand right now. So ideally we want them to see them play out a land or something here. If they have a white card in hand, then we might have to keep spinning our wheels for a bit longer. But I want to see our opponent play a card. Alright. Archon of Emeria. Okay. Sure. So that's our opponent's only spell this turn. And we know the 3 cards in their hand. So we can... Are we just going to kill this now instead of making our guy? Because this is a blocker that we'd have to worry about. That's an interesting question. Because they can just Solitude and then Solitude again the following turn. So we can't just go into this one. I think we just Abrupt Decay this now because we have a spare of Decay already. We need to be able to kill our opponent in 1 turn. That's what we're playing for here. Sejiri Steppe. Does that change anything? Okay, if we'd have gone for it then we would have actually won. That's annoying. Alright. I don't think we're playing the Boseiju out here. I think we're just going to pass. So again, we want our opponent to play a thing. Yeah, it's right for us to get rid of the Archon of Emeria there because otherwise our opponent tries to kill it on our turn. Then we defend ourselves. Then they block. And then they play a Solitude on their turn. All they need to do is find any card to put under the... Well, they need to find a white card, I suppose, to put on the Chromox, or another white card to pitch the Solitude. So our opponent's got 4 cards now. Do we think they've drawn a white card or not? An interesting choice here. We could play it a little bit cagey and just blow up their Lotus Petal here. But I don't think that's where we want to be. I just really hate if this goes wrong for us. They've drawn another white card. I think we're going to jam. You can have your little guy. We can target. We can say no to that. Have you drawn a white card, opponent? They did not draw a white card. Alright, so we were correct to jam that time. We could have jammed the previous turn and it would have worked out because we were drawing the step, but we obviously didn't know that at the time. But these matchups, yeah, feel pretty okay with them. We sort of know what we're doing. Once they start playing the 1 ring, though, it's going to get worse for us because that whole turn where they get to just tap out for a big thing that we don't really interact with, it gives them protection for a turn, so we can't make our 20/20, and they get to untap with 3 more cards than they would have otherwise had, and that's a lot. So that's something to look forward to in the future, I suppose. But we're 2-1. Let's go to round 4. So this opening hand has access to Dark Depths, but we need to find one of our other components. That's 4 Thespian Stage, 4 Sylvan Scrying, 4 Hexmage, and 3 crop rotations. 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15 cards. So that's 1 in 4, but slightly more than that, 1 in 3. But we have some discard here. I think we can keep this. We also have some good protection to lead the way. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. Alright. Mox Diamond. Okay. So we're looking at some sort of lands type deck. Yeah, okay, the exploration says that we're looking very much at land. Blast Zone. Sphere of Resistance. Understood, opponent. Well, this is certainly an interesting one. We can't play this out because our opponent can be... Okay, so they've just gone straight for the sphere. So hold on. If we play out this Urborg, then we turn it into a Thespian Stage using this. Then we play this, and we're still 1 mana shy. Yeah, okay. We're still not quite there because of the sphere. This matchup is a little tricky. Thespian Stage. Okay, understood. That is a real awkward one. Because if we play out our Dark Depths, they copy it. Yeah, a bit tough. Sylvan Library. Oof, that's a big hit. That's a massive hit from our opponent. So I think we are going to crop rotate away our Yavimaya because we've already got a Yavimaya up there. We'll go and get our Thespian Stage here. Now we can make a 20/20 with our opponent with their Thespian Stage shields down. And we can also pay for one activation. We can pay for the Not of This World through one sphere of resistance. So we're doing surprisingly okay here. They're going to think we won't be able to interact, possibly. So they might just think, okay, a single Maze of Ith or a single Caracas will do it for them, but it won't. Now, I have to find something in the top 3 cards of their library here. And that something has to be able to beat our Not of This World. Alright, it didn't. We got there. Our opponent tapped out with their Thespian stage. Now, if I was in our opponent's position, I would probably be doing the exact same thing with the Sylvan library anyway. Like, if you untap with the Sylvan library, the game is probably yours at that point. So I think it's worth jamming. Alright. Lands. Yuck. That's how I would describe this. Leyline on the Void shuts off their recursion engine of Wasteland, which is not great for us. So we need to make sure they don't have access to that. Null Rods and Collector Ouphes are also somewhat useful here. They are running the spheres, but we weirdly don't care about sphere that much. Our Duresses and Thoughtseizes are probably the weakest thing here. And that's a pretty clean one. The question is, do we want Abrupt Decays instead of Not of This World? I don't think so. Not of This World stops Caracas. This doesn't stop Caracas or Maze of Ith, whereas the Not of This World does. So I think this is roughly where I'd like to be. The fast mana helps us get in underneath them. Maybe on the play we can think about some Duress effects, but I don't think they're worth it on the draw. All these other things are fine here. Let's submit. I think this is the best lands build at the moment as well. Not the one I want to keep this. Because we can never play Dark Depths out until we're going off with it. Because our opponent has Thespian Stage in their deck, and we just give them a free Dark Depths. Okay, so Thespian Stage lets you copy any land. Alright, let's mulligan this one. Okay. We're close here. We'll keep this. We'll get rid of one of these many Pithing Needles, but no recurring lands for you. Don't want Life of Malome to get us, which is the best thing their deck does. So, Expedition Map. Okay. Guess what my Pithing Needle is going to name. Now, we can get punished if we name the Expedition Map here. I don't think we're supposed to name Expedition. I think we are still supposed to name Wasteland. And then the next one can name Caracas or Maze of Ith. But we don't need to name it until the time becomes right. There's a Thespian Stage. Okay, it's an annoying one. And they don't need to tap out of it. Okay, so they've exiled a Wasteland for this, which makes sense because we've just shut it off. Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. I don't want to name Thespian Stage. Oh dear. We do have a weird play available to us where we copy something with Thespian Stage and then name it because it becomes a copy of it. But I think we just have to pass here. We need our opponent to tap off of their Thespian Stage, which I doubt they're going to do here. I'm surprised they didn't Expedition Map at end of turn. Oh, they've got a Dark Depths. Oh, that's bad news for them, I think. So doing this, we will copy their Dark Depths here. So we're now looking for Sejiri Steppe. Our opponent is much better if we're just at parity with these two 2020s headbutting each other. Especially when they have an Expedition Map over there. A Vampire Hexmage. That's not the one we wanted, was it? We can play it. It doesn't achieve anything. I think we have to go Pithing Needle, name Expedition Map here. Is it Expedition Map or is it Caracas? Expedition Map can probably find them a bunch of stuff. I think we just name the thing on board. As sad as that is. Is it worth us playing out Dark Depths here? I think it probably is. We have the first Caracas covered with the Not of This World. Playing out Dark Depths gives us the mana to pay around a potential sphere of resistance. There's a Caracas, sure. Now we only get one protection from this. But it does buy us a draw step. And if that draw step is Sejiri Steppe, then we win the game. Acceleration, sure. Sejiri Steppe off the top, please. Verdant Catacombs. You are not a Sejiri Steppe, are you? Oh, God. So we're casting this. We're passing. So our opponent can bounce the MARIT LAGE. Then we have to make another MARIT LAGE to block their MARIT LAGE. And then hope to draw one of our tutors or the Sejiri Steppe. Sorry, little MARIT LAGE. I say little. It's the biggest of creatures. Right, Maze of Ith. That's a pretty annoying one, isn't it? I think our opponent's won this game now. So our opponent will Maze of Ith. They can Maze of Ith their own guy if they want to, or they can Maze of Ith our guy. They should be Maze of Ithing our guy when the time comes. Because that's harder for us to deal with. Potentially. Oh no, they're Maze of Ith their own guy. Okay, so this is... Yeah, so this leaves us with a whole bunch of draws now. We've got... right, so we'll crack this in our draw step to thin our deck marginally. Any tutor wins us the game here. Boseiju who endures. Interesting. We can get rid of the Caracas right now. which I think we have to, otherwise we will lose to it. So it's not a complete dead draw. Yeah, they shouldn't have Maze of Ith there. That just opens us up for Sejiri Steppe. Alright, we're still in this game. We had 9 draws that automatically won us the game there. But we have one that lets us play the game a bit longer, so I'll take it, I guess. It's going to attack. They're going to do the same jam. They're not. Okay, because now they can hold up 2 forms of defense. So we need a Pithing Needle and a... Okay, Lotus Petal isn't really what we're looking for here. I think we'll leave it in hand for now. Let our opponent guess about what we've got. That Carax has gone for good as well because of the Leyline, which is nice. Another land from our opponent. A Sylvan Scrying. That's part of the puzzle. So I think we're going to play out this Lotus Petal now so that we can play around a future problem. So we don't want to do this now with the Sejiri Steppe because the Maze of Ith will get it, and that'll be our 1 Sejiri Steppe shot. And we don't want our opponent to know we have a Sejiri Steppe in hand. So the plan here is, because we need to get either a ghost, okay, 2 Maze of Ith. Yikes. Okay, so we're now looking for one of our Pithing Needles. Pithing Needle wins us the game here. A Lotus Petal. We will play this out. One more Pithing Needle for the road, please. It's going to be a continually weird game here. What is this? A crop rotation. A Sylvan Library. Okay, that's a pretty fine card. If we find Pithing Needle, we win the game. A crop rotation. Okay, so that's half of the battle. This can crop rotate one of these away. We don't have a way of getting rid of this MARIT LAGE. Yeah, we just have to pass the turn here. At some point, our opponent can draw something like an Urza's Saga, and that's probably going to end badly for us. And now that they've got Sylvan Scrying on the go, it's going to be tricky. And they know they can pay a bunch of life as well because we're only going to deal them chunks of 20. So back earlier in the game, we could have named Caracas with our expedition map. And we could have saved the Boseiju to kill a Maze of Ith. But then we didn't know... But then they'd have one more permanent in play from the expedition map. So... And it would have been the best card in their deck. So I think we were right to hit this. A Ghost Quarter. Alright. Do I care about this? We do have a Swamp in the deck. This thins our deck slightly as well. A Crop Rotation. Right, what are they going for here? Surprised they didn't wait for our mana to get burned off there. Unless they've got the... another Caracas. I doubt they're going to have 2 Caracas. The deck's so adept at finding it when it needs to. There's the Urza's Saga. That's fine. We're still just trying to draw Pithing Needle to win the game. Vampire Hexmage. We can kill the Urza's Saga here that they just spent time getting. Is that right? No. It'll still be ticking up. We just remove the counters and reset it. That's not what we want to do. This the shuffle that they did with the crop rotation was also just to shuffle cards from Sylvan Library as well. Oh, come on, Pithing Needle. Where are you, my friend? You are not a Pithing Needle. We're so close. If they only have 1 Maze of Ith, we'd be okay here. Yep, I can make a guy. We can take a few hits from this. Right, we can obviously block, which is fine, but they can make 2, and we can only block 1 of them. So this time they probably don't attack. And they also get the free shuffle of the Urza's Saga from their Sylvan Library. Right, there's a construct. They're going to crop rotate away the Saga as well, just to get maximum value. Into another Saga, presumably. And they can just do 1 big alpha swing when the time comes. Yep, there it is. Okay, I'm still just waiting on this Pithing Needle. We have drawn 2 Pithing Needles this game. And we did shuffle a third one back in, I think, in the beginning of the game. They're targeting our Dark Depths. We could Bojuka Bog ourselves, but I think our plan here is just to try and get the game won. So this thins out our library slightly. Because these Urza's Sagas will kill us. Shadow Spear is kind of interesting here. It's going to mess with the amount of life they have. Oh, okay, that's a lot of life they're going to get now. And this will trample over for 1, won't it? We already have our Boseiju gone. Yeah, I think this beats us, doesn't it? They gain 21. We can no longer hit them for 1 big swing of damage. Yeah, I think that's enough, isn't it? And then we can also lose. Yeah. Alright. Next card, a Pithing Needle. No, long way off. Alright. But we definitely had draws that just win us the game there. Now the question is, on the play, are we more interested in hand disruption here? Not entirely convinced we are. I think we just run it like this. Kind of, maybe, do we want the Lotus Petal? Or do you want hand disruption? Or Abrupt Decays even? No, I think we do want the fast mana here. We can get a nice turn 1 with a bit of protection. That's like the dream here. Not far away from the dream, to be honest. I'll keep this. Do we care about our opponent wastelanding us here? We can play this out and we have crop rotation available. If they wasteland us, we can then crop rotate it into an Urborg or a Yavimaya, and that sets us up for better things. Alright, just a blast zone. Don't care about that one. An Urborg. Okay, so now we have the Urborg anyway. I don't want to give our opponent black mana though. Not that I think it makes a difference. Does it make a difference how many black things? I don't think it does. So maybe we could play out the Urborg. Yeah, play out the Urborg. Next turn we can crop rotate and Hexmage. If that doesn't work, we can reload with Thespian Stage Depths. Bojuka Bog. That's a pretty slow one. Our opponent did show us white mana, so they might have white interaction. So the Sejiri Steppe might be crucial here. Pithing Needle. How much do we want to care about what we can do with our Pithing Needle here? I think we play the Pithing Needle here. And we name Caracas. Then we play this out. Then our opponent's upkeep will make this before they get to make a land drop. We can beat Mazavith as well with the crop rotation for Ghost Quarter. Unless they hit our Bayou with a Wasteland. But they would need to play 2 lands on their turn in order to do that. Right, there's a 2020. So the way we can get a bit ruined here is if our opponent has Surgical Extraction and a way of dealing with this MARIT LAGE permanently. They can't really crack the Blast Zone this turn. So we don't have to worry about Caracas bouncing this. And Mazavith we have covered, so I feel we're okay here. There's probably a sequence. Like they showed us white mana. So okay, here's a Surgical Extraction. That was one of the things I said could punish us. So now they need to be able to get rid of this MARIT LAGE. They go White Source, Plow, then we're cooked. I don't think I'm going to bother trying to beat them down with other guys if that is the case. Alright, we got him. Whew. Yeah, so this matchup is a tough one for sure because they have a lot of similar things. You have to be really careful with how you sequence everything because you can't ever leave a Dark Dex hanging out there. It has to go immediately because they just, even if they just have mana for crop rotation and Thespian Stage, you can't really do it then because they're just going to get you unless you have to have the mana to do it right there so you can do it in response. But even then, they can just wait and then wait till their turn, play a thing. So basically you need them to not have the mana up to activate a Thespian Stage if one of their lands was a Thespian Stage at all points, all times. So it can be tricky. We did find a way through it today, so that's all right. I'm not sure what our opponent's keep was in that last one though. Colourless land into Bojuka Bog. What are you doing with that one? Like, are you just relying on Surgical Extraction? That doesn't work because that means we have a 2020. So they must have had something. So maybe it was the Caracas they had. Anyway, let's go to the final round. We are 3-1, I think. We keep being on the play, which is nice. So our opening hand has the Dark Depths, but doesn't really go anywhere. I think we can do better. I don't think this is better. Like this does get there eventually. I like being on the play with the Duress, considering our opponent has mulliganed quite well. They've mulliganed to 6 so far, but they're clearly contemplating whether or not they're going to keep their hand. So what do we throw back here? It's probably the Not of This World, because we need both of these to actually assemble our combo. And I'd much rather have the Duress than a Not of This World, because this can impact what our opponent's doing, regardless of whether or not it interacts with us. Because sometimes it might just be, oh, okay, I've got the stuff, just going to kill you. Whereas Duress says, okay, we can take out their Lion's Eye Diamond or whatever key piece they're relying on. So they're on 5 and we have a Duress. So that's a pretty good place to start the game at. We can assemble our combo over a few turns. One of these people. We're going to take the Busted card. Okay, so this is why we have 4 Null Rod effects in our deck, in our 75. There's an Ancient Tomb, there's a Monolith. They can tap this to play out the key and then untap the Monolith. And it's basically free for them. It just means they have all their mana up for next turn. Oh, they drew a Mox Opal. Okay, untap the Monolith. There we go. Yeah, so the hand would have assembled a turn 1, the One Ring, which is pretty gross. And then they would be able to double draw from every turn, which is very gross. So yeah, I think if we didn't have the Duress there, we'd probably lose, like next turn or the turn after. Having cards that draw increasing amounts of cards is a little bit worrying. Play this, cast Sylvan Scrying, go and get ourselves the Dark Depths, and pass. This way, if we draw the Hexmage next turn, we can go off. If we draw a second crop rotation, we can go off. So you've got options. There is Ancient Tomb. Oh, they drew another One Ring. GG's, I guess. This probably beats us. This card is pretty unreasonable. Yeah, so they get to draw 3 additional cards this turn. And next turn they get to draw 9 cards minimum. So yeah. So this doesn't do the thing we need it to do. Is there a way that we can interact with anything on the board here? We can't blow up the One Ring. We've got a lot of stuff going on over there. Let me just play this out. Carter Sylvan Scrying. Hope that we can get over the finish line. Pithing Needle would have been pretty good. Now our opponent's Ancient Tombs are a little bit risky as a mana source, but they probably don't care. They take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that'll be half their life total. They can probably win on the next turn because they're drawing 9 cards. Because this card is pretty busted. People are already talking about having it banned in multiple formats. So it is a bit awkward. Whether or not it needs to be banned, I'm not sure. I haven't been able to play with it at all yet, and I haven't played against it that much. But every time I've seen it, it's been really obscene. Especially in these shells where they get to tap it multiple times. Because this is going to draw them a bunch of cards, which is probably going to draw them mana and another key effect. Which is then going to give them more cards and more mana and more key effects until they find Paradox Engine. And then they just go infinite. And they just cast their entire deck and kill you with whatever they want. So the poor little Dark Depths player over here. Not having a great time. And our opponent's taking a long time over this. And I probably should have just been quiet. Alright. Our opponent's finally acted. So I think we're going to get a Thespian stage here. And let's hope our opponent doesn't kill us with the One Ring this turn. Okay, just casually tapping it to draw 3 cards. Paradox Engine. Okay, so this is basically game now. They get to tap and do all their stuff. So we're going to try and see a bit of our opponent's deck and see what it does. We haven't seen this yet on the channel for you, so it's just F6 return. So they're making a Khan here. This untaps all of their permanents, including the One Ring. They can draw a bunch of cards here. Walking Ballista. So they're going to make some mana here. They're going to play a bunch of spells. Alright, so they can play basically any spell they want. And because the damage on the One Ring, if you're unfamiliar with it, this is, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden. So if you get to tap it multiple times in a turn, you don't have to care about the burden counters on it. It just is only at the beginning of your turn. So when they have a situation like this, they can just make all the mana in the world. Yeah, so this is quite a quick kill at the end of the day because they're making so much mana due to the Paradox Engine. So I need 40 mana here. So they're not going to miss here, but we're just letting you see how broken this card is pretty much. So I suspect it's going to get restricted in Vintage pretty soon because that tends to be what happens with the broken stuff. It gets restricted in Vintage and then gets banned in Legacy down the line. But people already want this banned in formats that aren't Legacy. So this is 34, 35, 36. Yep, so that's lethal amounts of mana there. So we can scoop it up and not make them click through the Walking Ballista that we know is in their hand from the card. Alright, but we came prepared. We have Collector Ouphes. We have Null Rods. We have Abrupt Decays. We do not need Not of This World. Pithing Needle though, I'll definitely take Pithing Needles here. So at the moment, this is what we're looking at. And then we have to decide how many other cards we want in for these Abrupt Decays. Honestly, what are we worried about here? They're just a full-on combo deck. The Abrupt Decay can blow up keys or monoliths, but it's not really doing the jam it needs to do. I think we'll just submit like this. I think Hand Disruption and Pithing Needle is the best thing to go alongside Collector Ouphe. That's wrong actually. We want some of these for Ensnaring Bridge. Now I think about it. Let's try this actually. Nearly messed up there. Yeah, we need these for Ensnaring Bridge. Doesn't mean we have less ways of making... I guess we could get rid of the Bog for a Petal, just so we're more likely to play a turn 1 Collector Ouphe or Null Rod. Boseiju's obviously good here. Ghost Quarter's fine. Sejiri Steppe's probably not that good actually. Let's have a Lotus Petal. So one of the versions I've seen of this has 3 Dismember in the sideboard and the rest of it's just a Karn Wish board. I don't really think you need that many cards in your Karn Wish board at the end of the day. Is our hand quick enough to interact with what our opponent's doing? We can make a turn 2 2020. So we go turn 1 Urborg, turn 2 Dark Depths, make 2 mana, use this, crop rotate for Thespian stage, target the Dark Depths. Honestly, don't know if that's quick enough. I think we have to mulligan. We've got such powerful tools for this matchup if we can find them. Okay, so this is Duress into Sylvan Scrying into 2020. Is that okay, or should we just go deeper looking for our big hate pieces? I think we keep this and throw back a Decay. I haven't played against this deck enough to know how much we need to be sideboarding. But like, if our opponent drew anything other than the One Ring for the second time, then yeah. So basically, When this deck doesn't have the one ring, it doesn't feel very strong. When it has the one ring, it feels completely broken. So it's kind of an odd duck. There's a Crystal Vein. There's a Manifold Key. Yavimaya. Sylvan Scrying. It's going to get Dark Depths. Pass turn. So we make 20/20 next turn. City of Traitors. They drew the one ring. No. Okay. There's the Manifold Key. There's the Voltaic Key. Our opponent's got 2 mystery cards in hand. So I can play this one out. Black. Black. Get this Hexmage on the go. And pass turn. If we need to, something goes horribly wrong and we need to destroy their Khan. We've already got the Ensnaring Bridge covered. Alright, so they're scooping it up. Excellent. So we basically just want to do the same thing again. But maybe let's throw some of our really broken, well not very broken, but really oppressive hate pieces like Collector Ouphe and Null Rod in. They struggle to beat those cards. On the play, I think we're more likely to need the Lotus Petals to ramp them out. And that means our discard is going to be less useful. What creatures are they realistically going to have? Walking Ballista potentially, but I don't think they're really about creatures here. So we can... I guess our life total doesn't really matter either in this matchup though, so we might as well take out a couple of Duress. We just want to be able to ramp into these things. We need to have the decays so that we can break serve and get some of their scary things. They just like hang a monolith out there, we can do that. But mainly it's there for the Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, what does this do? We can turn one... I think this isn't good enough. I think we need to mulligan. We can put this on the one ring though. That's certainly interesting to me. Any other land gives us a turn 3 kill, but we have to use this to get our black source. No, I think we're mulligan. Is a turn 2 Collector Ouphe fast enough? That's certainly a question. I don't think we can throw back a Collector Ouphe here, can we? So what are we getting rid of here? Probably the Sylvan Scrying. We kind of have it covered with our other stuff here. Our opponent kept 7, so we could be dead pretty quick. Maybe they won't have the one ring one time. Crystal Vein. Lotus Petal. We're just playing a turn 1 ring. Right, we get a turn here. Oh wow, we got there. So we'll play out the Urborg, I think, here. Then we'll play out this Lotus Petal. We'll cast this for green, black. Do they board in Dismembers, and do they have one? If the answer to both of those questions is yes, then they win this game, I think. At least I'm glad we get to showcase one of the things I wanted to show with how this deck is adapting to the format in terms of the one ring being a thing. And that's why we got these Collector Ouphes. Null Rods. Like if you're putting Pithing Needle on artifacts in a matchup, then Null Rod is just a better version of that most of the time. So next time we play the Bayou, hold up Abrupt Decay, and then the turn after we can crop rotate for our win. These will make the construct bigger, but that's not really the problem here. A Hexmage. Does that change anything right now? No. Go attacks. They can't make a token here. So we can Abrupt Decay anything that we're worried about. Wonder if they have an answer tucked away in their Urza's Saga that they can find. Khan the Great Creator. Yep, that's certainly a thing. What are they going to find here? Ensnaring Bridge, I assume. We do have that covered with the Decay. But we have to be careful with what we're doing with our mana base if that's the plan. A Walking Ballista. Okay, that's a thing that can... Well, I can't really kill our Collector Ouphe here. So maybe they have an answer for it in the pipeline. Elvish Spirit Guide. Yes, I'm a fan of this. We will attack the Khan here. So it can't go and get something else. And then... Do we want to just make... I guess it's better off to use the Hexmage to make the things. Because it doesn't cost us as many permanents that way. Now if we need to, we can still crop rotate here. Probably we're supposed to tap the Thespian stage there because of the Urborg. So this can go and get a Pithing Needle. So I will crop rotate this Urborg in response. That loses us black mana. Maybe it's supposed to be the stage. Sure, we'll get rid of the stage. So we will go and get the Dark Depths here. Then we'll do this now to dodge Pithing Needle. We don't have to worry about an artifact that bounces because we have the Collector Ouphe. Now if they have multiple things that kill our Collector Ouphe, sure, but they would have killed our Collector Ouphe at any point earlier in the game if they had it. Okay, a Manifold Key. What is the plan here, opponent? Walking Ballista can't ping our Collector Ouphe. We have the Ensnaring Bridge covered. It's always tense in moments like this because you don't know if you're about to win the game or just completely lose the game. Inventor's Fair. Okay, with 5 mana floating. Walking Ballista for 2, that doesn't do it. Yeah, we got it. Alright. I'm surprised they got the Walking Ballista there and not the Ensnaring Bridge. I think the Ensnaring Bridge is the safer line for them, and then they can try and build out and get rid of the guy. I think they just made a mistake because they were clearly new to the deck, taking a lot of time between their turns. Like between each play, they were spending a long time. So maybe that's just sort of them learning. Like the deck is quite new, I guess. It's a variation of an old deck that existed, the Mystic Forge deck, but it's just way better now. So maybe they're new to it. All right, so we got a 4-1. It's pretty good. The only thing we lost to was our opponent having the turn 1 3 mana plus Dead and Gone for our turn 1 MARIT LAGE. So I'll certainly take that. So let's talk about the deck. I think Pithing Needle is too good to not have 4 of. Now, yeah, there's some matchups where it feels a bit awkward, but that's what sideboarding is for, right? The majority of games you play of Magic are sideboarded games. So if your main deck's not super ideal for a specific matchup, that's fine. Your deck is supposed to be tailored to game ones and what you're expecting to see. And I think our list does that reasonably well. I didn't miss not having the second Boseiju, and I think Boseiju gets worse if the main thing you want to blow up is an indestructible artifact for 4 mana. But there is that. I felt we got a little bit lucky against a lands player. Maybe they should have kept a better hand. I'm not really sure what was going on over there, unless we just managed to blank it completely with that Pithing Needle that we had. But again, Pithing Needle, absolute all-star. Big fan of this card. I want them to print an old bordered version of this because I have this deck in paper and it's all old bordered for all the stuff that has old borders. So I've got like the old bordered Dark Depths and a Yavimaya and all that sort of stuff. So it'd be nice if we had a Pithing Needle. So if anyone working at Wizard of the Coast is watching this, do that please. And also some of the other bits and pieces. Anyway, sorry, talking about the deck. So if I was to play another league, I think I would just run back this exact same list. I think it's got the things we want. Like the Apostle's Blessing wasn't really a thing that necessarily came up. It wasn't like we did board them in, I think in one round, but it wasn't, it was fine. It wasn't necessarily what we wanted. So maybe we could tweak with these slots a bit more. We could have a 4th Not of This World. But I think just having the discard spells is so useful here. But we'll see how the meta changes and see what the sideboard is. But at the moment, I think I'm pretty locked in on having the 4-4-4 split here with these cards. So the 4 Null Rod effects, 4 Abrupt Decays, 4 Leylines. You saw how the Collector Ouphe just completely shut down our opponent's deck there. That's what you need. That deck doesn't care about Force of Vigor. It doesn't care about stuff like that. Seeds of Innocence, it kind of cares about, but by the time you get 3 mana for Seeds of Innocence, your opponent's probably going to have the 1 ring online, and that's indestructible, so they're just going to draw their whole deck again anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So you do need the big Null Rod Collector Ouphe effects. I think it is good to split them because in certain matchups, one of them is better than the other, right? So against the sort of Karn decks, Null Rod, they can turn into a creature and then kill with a Dismember if they have a Karn. But we also have Pithing Needles that we're going to be putting on Karn at the same time. Collector Ouphe, they can obviously kill with a Dismember. Against like 8 casts, maybe they'll have Hurkyl's Recall. Seems very unlikely though for the Null Rod. But again, they brought in Dismember, which can kill the Collector Ouphe. I did write about what it was, the reason for splitting them. The details are in my primer that you can check out in the description on my Patreon. But simply put, the Null Rod is slightly better against things like the Epic Gamble because they have Shatterskull Smashing as just part of their mana base, which can then kill your Collector Ouphe. So Collector Ouphe gets killed by various bits of removal, but it does get to beat down. Null Rod is obviously slightly easier to cast as well, which is a thing. So it's a bit of ebb and flow between the two. Like sometimes Collector Ouphe can eat an Edict effect as well. There's reasons for them having the split as well. Like also Cabal Therapy is a card that Saga Storm decks run, so having it split makes a little bit more sense that way. There's just loads of tiny little things, and mostly once you get into play, you're fine anyway. So that's all right. And I guess the Apostle's Blessing is something you can bring in to protect them if you're worried that they're going to have lots of answers for your Collector Ouphe. You can board these in, but I don't really think that's necessary. But yeah, if you want more details about that, check out the Patreon, which is currently being updated. It'll probably be published in like 3 weeks, I guess. I normally do it towards the end of the month when I update the primer, but there's going to be lots of updates in this one, so it's definitely worth checking out. All right, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.